The glass-caged Samira Kapoor watched the rain slide down the window of her tiny studio apartment, each droplet a tiny reminder of freedom. 3 months had passed since she'd left Vikram. 3 months of rebuilding a life that had been meticulously dismantled over 5 years of marriage. The apartment was sparse: a second-hand sofa, a mattress on the floor, a small desk where she worked remotely as a graphic designer. But it was hers. Every corner, every decision, every breath taken without walking on eggshells. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. The 6th one this week. "I know where you are," the text read. "That blue scarf looked nice on you today." Her fingers trembled as she deleted it. She had worn the blue scarf today, a gift from her sister. The knowledge that he had seen her, had been close enough to notice what she was wearing, sent ice through her veins. Mumbai was supposed to be big enough to disappear in. Apparently not big enough. The restraining order was just paper. Police report was just words. "We need evidence of an actual threat, ma'am," they'd told her, as if psychological terrorism wasn't threat enough. Samira pulled the curtains closed, though she knew it was pointless. If Vikram wanted to watch her, he would find a way. That had been his specialty in their marriage. Surveillance disguised as care, checking her phone, tracking her location, questioning friends about her whereabouts. Would say, his voice honeyed with concern that felt like acid on her skin. She had left in the middle of the night during one of his business trips, packed only what would fit in 2 suitcases, left her wedding ring on the nightstand, and disappeared. Her sister Divya had helped, connecting her with a women's support group that had found her this apartment and helped her get back on her feet. For a while, it had worked. For a while, she had felt safe. The rain intensified, drumming against the windows. Samira checked the locks again, a ritual she performed each hour now. Door bolt, window latches, balcony door. She had installed an additional deadbolt herself, drilling into the doorframe with grim determination. Tomorrow, she would have to go to the market. Food was running low, and she couldn't keep ordering delivery. It was too expensive, and she didn't like the idea of strangers knowing her address. But leaving meant being exposed, vulnerable. The market was only 3 blocks away, but those 3 blocks might as well be a minefield. Her phone buzzed again. "Sweet dreams, Sammy. I'll see you tomorrow." The old nickname made her stomach clench. Only Vikram called her that, and only when he was in his most possessive moods. She dropped the phone like it had burned her. Sleep would not come easily tonight. Samira made tea, the ritual bringing a small comfort. As she sipped the hot liquid, she opened her laptop and searched how to disappear completely. The results were a mix of practical advice and Radiohead lyrics.
Oh.
She almost smiled at that. Music had been another casualty of her marriage. Vikram had found her taste depressing, and gradually, she had stopped listening to anything at all. Tomorrow, she decided she would buy pepper spray, change her phone number again, and perhaps dye her hair. Again, the constant reinvention was exhausting, but necessary. Like a snake shedding skin that no longer protected it. Outside, a car door slammed. Samira froze, listening intently for footsteps. For his footsteps, she knew their rhythm by heart, the way prey recognizes the tread of its predator. Nothing came. Just the rain, washing away another day of borrowed freedom. Samira wrapped herself in a blanket on the sofa, laptop balanced on her knees, the blue light illuminating her face in the darkened room. She would not sleep tonight, but she would survive until morning, and then the next night. And the next survival had become her only talent. But somewhere beneath the fear, a spark of defiance still burned. Vikram had taken her past. He was poisoning her present, her future that she would fight for with everything she had left. The silent guardian, the datter market, bustled with mid-morning activity. A kaleidoscope of colors, voices, and aromas that would normally bring Samira comfort. Today, however, she moved through it like a ghost, eyes constantly scanning faces, shoulders tense beneath her newly dyed chestnut hair. She had changed her appearance again, darker hair, glasses she didn't need, clothing deliberately different from her usual style. Disguise felt flimsy, but necessary. She was selecting vegetables when she felt that unmistakable sensation of being watched. The hair on her neck stood up before her conscious mind could process why. Slowly she turned, scanning the crowd with practiced subtlety. And there he was, partially hidden behind a flower stall. Vikram, in his crisp business shirt despite the weekend, phone raised as if taking casual photos of the market. But Samira knew better. Was documenting her, adding to whatever obsessive collection he maintained. Her hands trembled as she paid the vendor, deliberately keeping her face angled away. The exit was 30 meters away, 30 meters of open space where he could intercept her. Panic rose like bile in her throat as she wove through the crowd, bumping shoulders, muttering apologies.
A quick glance back confirmed her fear. He was
following his tall frame, easily navigating the crowd. Closing the distance, in her haste, Samira collided with a solid chest. Her bag of vegetables tumbled to the ground, tomatoes rolling across the concrete. "I'm sorry," she gasped, not daring to look up as she scrambled to collect her purchases. Hand reached down, retrieving a wayward eggplant. "Let me help," said a quiet, deep voice. When she finally looked up, she found herself facing a man with the most peculiar, as almost amber in the morning light, set in a face that seemed carved from something unyielding. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but there was something arresting about him, something that made her pause despite her panic. "Thank you, but I need to," she began. Then froze as she spotted Vikram, only meters away now, his predatory gaze locked on her. The stranger followed her gaze, his expression shifting subtly as he assessed the situation with unnerving quickness. Without a word, he gently took her elbow and guided her toward a narrow side alley. "Is he following you?" he asked, his voice barely audible above the market noise. Samira hesitated, years of learned distrust warring with desperate need. "My ex-husband," she finally admitted. "He's been stalking me for months." The man nodded once. Decision made. "I'm Aditya," he said simply. "Stay close. I know another way out." For reasons she couldn't articulate, Samira trusted him. It was the lack of questions, the absence of judgment in his eyes. Or perhaps she simply had no choice. They wove through back alleys and service corridors that Samira hadn't known existed, emerging eventually on a quiet street 3 blocks from the market. Only when Aditya confirmed they weren't followed did Samira release the breath she'd been holding. "How did you know those shortcuts?" she asked, clutching her half-filled grocery bag. Aditya's smile was brief, barely there. "I notice things. Paths. Exits. It's a habit." Something in his tone suggested this habit wasn't casual, but Samira didn't press. "I'm Samira," she offered instead. "Thank you for whatever this was. Where do you live?" He asked then, immediately. Added, "Not exactly. It's just the general direction, so I can make sure you get home safely." The request seemed reasonable, considerate even. Still, Samira hesitated. "Northern Datter, near the station, can manage from here." Aditya shook his head. "He might be circling back to the main roads. Let me walk with you. I promise I'll leave once I know you're safe." Against her better judgment, Samira nodded. They walked in silence for several blocks, Aditya constantly scanning their surroundings with a vigilance that spoke of practice. Occasionally, he would subtly change their direction or pause at a corner before proceeding a silent protector, navigating invisible threats as they approached her neighborhood. Samira found herself reluctant to end this strange encounter. "Do you live nearby?" she asked. "Sion," he replied. "I work at Jadhoff's garage." It's small, but honest work. The way he emphasized honest struck her as significant. They reached the intersection near her building. Aditya stopped. "This is where I leave you. Go straight home and watch for anyone following." "How can I thank you?" Suddenly aware she had nothing to offer this stranger who had helped her. Without question, Aditya's expression softened marginally. "Just be safe, Samira." He turned to leave, but Samira called after him. "What if he comes back? What if I need... ... She couldn't finish the sentence. Embarrassed by her desperation, Aditya considered for a moment, then took out a worn notepad from his pocket, scribbled something, and handed her the paper. "My number. 4 emergencies only." His eyes met hers. With unexpected intensity. "I mean that. Emergencies." With that, he walked away, his broad shoulders gradually disappearing into the crowd. Samira stood watching until he was completely gone, the paper clutched in her hand, feeling simultaneously like a lifeline and a risk she wasn't sure she should take. That night, she triple-checked her locks. Samira added Odita's number too. Her phone under the name emergency. She didn't know why a stranger would help her, or what made him so adept at evading someone like Vikram. But for the first time in months, alongside her fear lived a tiny seed of something else. Not hope. Exactly. But possibility. Outside her window, Mumbai continued its relentless rhythm. Indifferent to the small dramas playing out within its sprawl, somewhere in that vast city was Vikram, plotting his next move. But somewhere also was Aditya mystery. Himself, but one who had chosen, for whatever reason, to stand between her and danger. Samira slept fitfully that night, dreaming of amber eyes and back alleys that led to places both terrifying and safe. Ghosts unearthed 3 weeks passed in relative calm. Samira established new routines, avoiding the market where Vikram had spotted her, taking different routes to necessary destinations, working from home when possible. The texts had stopped temporarily, which worried her more than reassured her. Vikram's silence usually meant he was planning something more elaborate. One rainy Tuesday evening, leaving a client meeting that couldn't be conducted remotely, Samira spotted a familiar silhouette across the street from her office building. Not Vikram this time, but Aditya, standing motionless beneath the awning of a closed shop, eyes fixed on the building entrance. When he saw her, he didn't approach, merely nodded once in acknowledgement. Perhaps a reassurance. Confused but strangely comforted, Samira crossed the street toward him. "Are you following me?" she asked, unable to keep the edge from her. Voice Aditya's expression remained impassive. "Your ex-husband has been watching your office. Different car, same man. I recognized him from the market." He paused. "I noticed him 2 days ago when I was delivering parts nearby. Thought I should check again today. You've been watching out for me?" The realization was both warming and unsettling. Why? Rain dripped from the awning, creating a curtain of water between them and the street. Aditya shifted uncomfortably. "I know what men like him do when they're obsessed. I've seen it." Something dark flickered across his face. "Would you prefer?" "I hadn't, no," Samira admitted. "Thank you. But I don't understand why you'd go out of your way for a stranger." Aditya was quiet for a long moment. "Let me buy you a cup of chai," he finally said. "Not here. Somewhere safer." They ended up in a tiny tea stall several blocks away, tucked between a tailor shop and a mobile repair booth. The owner greeted Aditya by name, suggesting this was a regular haunt. They sat at the only table, a wobbly metal thing with mismatched chairs steamed from their chai, creating a fragile barrier between them and the world. "I worked security before the garage," Aditya said abruptly, staring into his cup. "Private security, for people who needed protection, that WASN single quotes. Ted chested this, like a bodyguard. Sometimes his knuckles were scarred. She noticed, with the telltale marks of someone who had used his fists professionally. Sometimes it was more complicated. Understanding dawned slowly. "You worked for criminals," she stated, not a question. Aditya met her eyes unflinchingly. "Yes, 5 years with the Kohli Syndicate. I protected people who didn't deserve protection. I hurt people who got in their way." His voice remained steady, but shame lurked beneath the words. "I was good at it," rather than recoiling. Samira found herself leaning closer. What changed? Job went wrong. "I was supposed to intimidate a shopkeeper who wouldn't pay protection money. Simple warning, nothing serious." His fingers tightened around the chai cup. His daughter was there, 16 years old. "When her father went down, she came at me with a kitchen knife. He stopped, swallowed hard. I reacted on instinct. Nearly killed her before I realized what I was doing." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the patter of rain and the distant honking of cars. "She survived," Aditya continued eventually. "But I saw myself through her eyes. What I'd become. I walked away that night, left everything behind. The syndicate wasn't happy I knew too much. But I had leverage, information they didn't want. Exposed, An uneasy truce. "And now you fix cars," Samira said softly. "Now I fix cars," he agreed, with the ghost of a smile. "Honest work, quiet life, until you saw me in the market." Aditya's eyes, those unusual amber eyes, locked with hers. "Until I saw your face. The fear, I recognized it." He hesitated. "Couldn't walk away?" Not again. Samira should have been frightened by his confession. Instead, she found herself reaching across the table, her fingers briefly touching his scarred knuckles. "Thank you for telling me. You should be running in the opposite direction," he said, though he didn't pull his hand away. "Men with my past don't make good friends." "Men with your past might understand what I'm facing better than most," she countered. "I don't need a friend, Aditya. I need someone who knows how men like Vikram think, how they hunt." Lightning flashed outside, briefly illuminating Aditya's face in harsh white light. In that moment, Samira saw both the man he'd been and the man he was trying to become, the violence and the redemption coexisting in uneasy balance. "I can help you," he said finally. "But you need to understand what you're asking. To stop a predator, sometimes you need to think like one. It's not ... clean. My life stopped being clean the moment I realized what Vikram really was," Samira replied, a new hardness in her voice. "I'm not asking you to hurt him. It's just to help me make him stop." Aditya nodded slowly. "Then we need a plan. And you need to tell me everything about him: habits, patterns, weaknesses, especially weaknesses." As the rain continued, its relentless rhythm outside, Samira began to talk, unspooling the painful details of her marriage. The escalating control, the moments of terror disguised as love. Aditya listened without judgment, occasionally asking pointed questions that revealed his tactical mind at work. By the time they left the tea stall, something had fundamentally shifted between them, a partnership forged in shared darkness. In recognizing the shadows they both carried, not quite trust, not quite friendship, but something essential nonetheless. "I'll be watching," Aditya promised as they parted ways. His words no longer ominous, but reassuring. Samira walked home through the rain, sensing for the first time that she was not merely prey waiting to be caught. With Odita's help, perhaps she could become something else entirely: the hunter instead of the hunted. Breaking points. The plan was simple in theory. Document Vikram's stalking with irrefutable evidence, build a case strong enough that the police couldn't ignore it. In practice, it required Samira to become beta role that left her alternately terrified and grimly determined. Aditya had installed small, unobtrusive cameras near her apartment building and taught her how to use recording apps on her phone. "Don't confront him," he'd instructed. "Just collect the evidence. I'll be nearby." For 2 weeks, they established routines designed to draw Vikram out while ensuring Samira's safety was never truly compromised. Aditya was always watching, sometimes visible, sometimes hidden among Mumbai's endless stream of humanity. They communicated through coded text messages, developed their own shorthand language of alerts and all clears. The unexpected consequence of this dangerous dance was a deepening connection between them. In brief meetings to exchange information or review footage, Samira discovered layers to Aditya that his stoic exterior concealed: a dry humor, surprising gentleness, an uncompromising moral code that had somehow survived his years with the syndicate. "You weren't born into that life," she observed one evening, as they sat in his modest apartment reviewing the day's surveillance footage. The space was sparse, but meticulously organized, much like the man himself. Aditya looked up from the laptop screen. "No, my father was military, strict, honorable. He died when I was 17. His jaw tightened. The Kohlis offered what looked like respect, purpose, when I needed it most. By the time I understood what I'd joined, I was already in too deep." "Yet you found your way out," Samira said, "at a cost." He didn't elaborate, but the shadows in his eyes spoke volumes. Everyone pays eventually. Their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. One rainy afternoon, as Samira was leaving work, she found her path blocked by Vikram, rain plastering his expensive shirt to his body. Eyes wild with a rage she recognized all too well. "Who is he?" Vikram demanded, gripping her arm with bruising force. The man you've been meeting? Did you leave me for him? Was he waiting all along? Samira's training kicked in. She activated the recording app on her phone, angled her body to ensure the camera captured his face. Let go of me, Vikram. You're hurting me. You belong to me, he hissed, his fingers digging deeper. Everything you are is because of me. You think you can just walk away? Start over with somewhat. Is he a mechanic? You think that's your level now? Despite her fear, Samira felt something snap inside her, a final thread of the control he'd once held over her. I never belonged to you, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. And yes, I walked away. I survived you, Vikram. That's what you can't stand. His hand cracked across her face before she could react, the impact sending her stumbling backward. Through the shock and pain, she was dimly aware of having captured exactly what they needed, irrefutable evidence of his violence. But that knowledge was cold comfort as Vikram advanced on her again, rain washing away the thin trickle of blood from her split lip. I made you, he snarled, reaching for her again. And I can unmake the rest of his threat, died as a shadow materialized behind him. Aditya moved with the fluid precision of someone who had spent years honing his body into a weapon. One moment. Vikram was looming over Samira. The next he was on his knees. Arm twisted at an unnatural angle, face contorted in shock and pain. Touch her again, and I'll break it, Aditya said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Nod if you understand. Vikram, stunned by the sudden reversal, managed a jerky nod. Bystanders had stopped to watch, several with phones raised, recording the confrontation. Aditya continued, maintaining his hold. Now listen carefully. The police are on their way. I'll find a man with a history of domestic violence who assaulted his ex-wife in broad daylight. I'll find multiple witnesses, video evidence, and a restraining order you've repeatedly violated. He leaned closer, his next words for Vikram alone. They won't find evidence of what I'll do if you ever come near her again. Trust me when I say there won't be enough left of you to identify. The police arrived minutes later, taking statements from Samira and witnesses, while Aditya faded into the background, his part in the confrontation minimized in the official account. By the time Vikram was placed in the back of a police car, his arrogance had crumbled into something almost pitiful. Man suddenly confronted with consequences after a lifetime of avoiding them. Later, in the quiet of Samira's apartment, Aditya gently cleaned the cut on her lip, his hands incongruously gentle for someone capable of such controlled violence. I saw a different man today, Samira said quietly. The man you used to be. Aditya's movements stilled, his eyes meeting hers with painful honesty. He's always there, just beneath the surface. That's what frightens me. It doesn't frighten me, she replied, surprising herself with the truth of it. Not anymore. Should, he insisted, resuming his careful ministrations. What I did today wanted to do worse, much worse. But you didn't. She caught his wrist, forcing him to look at her. The man you were would have. The man you are made a choice. Something vulnerable flickered across Aditya's fossa, crack in the careful armor he'd constructed. And what if that choice becomes harder next time? What if I can't control it? Then I'll remind you, Samira said simply. The same way you reminded me that I'm not just a victim, that I can fight back. Rain drummed against the windows, creating a cocoon around them, a moment suspended in time. Aditya's hand turned in her grasp until their fingers intertwined, tentative questioning. I don't know how to be anything other than what they made me, he confessed, the words barely audible. Samira leaned forward, her forehead resting against his. What? Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. In the distance, thunder rolled across the Mumbai sky, a breaking point. The moment when pressure finally gives way to release. Neither of them could know what would come next, what consequences awaited. But in this moment, in this small, safe space they'd created, there was only the sound of rain and the tentative beginning of something neither had dared to hope for. Light through cracks the courtroom was stifling despite the air conditioning. Mumbai's monsoon heat seeping through the colonial-era building like an unwelcome ghost. Samira sat rigidly on the hard wooden bench, her simple navy blue kurta, a deliberate, choice professional, serious, survivor, rather than victim. Beside her, Aditya maintained a respectful distance. his presence solid, yet unobtrusive. 3 months had passed since Vikram's arrest. 3 months of legal proceedings, restraining order renewals, and the gradual, painstaking reconstruction of a life without constant fear. The evidence had been overwhelming: Vikram's recorded assault, the documented pattern of stalking, text, messages, witness statements. His family's influence had secured him bail, but not even their connections could erase what multiple witnesses had seen. Now they awaited the verdict on charges of assault, criminal intimidation, and violation of the protection order. Vikram sat at the defendant's table, his once immaculate appearance now carefully calibrated to project contrition, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. "The defendant will rise," the judge announced, her stern face revealing nothing of her decision. As Vikram stood, he turned slightly, his eyes finding Samira's across the courtroom. For a breathless moment, she saw through the performance to the rage still simmering beneath, a reminder that men like him never truly believed they deserved punishment. Aditya shifted almost imperceptibly closer to her, a silent promise of protection. The judge's voice was clear and unwavering as she delivered the verdict. Guilty on all counts. 2 years imprisonment, with additional restrictions upon release. Not enough, perhaps, for the years of psychological terrorism, but a validation nonetheless. A public declaration that what had happened to Samira mattered, that her boundaries deserved respect. Outside the courthouse, rain fell in gentle sheets, cleansing the thick summer air. Samira stood beneath the overhang, watching Vikram being led to a police vehicle, his family closing ranks around his lawyer, already discussing appeal options. "It's over," Aditya said quietly, joining her. "For now, at least." Samira nodded, emotions too complex for simple categorization washing through her. 2 years isn't very long, no, he agreed. But it's something. And when he gets out, there will be a record. People watching. It won't be so easy for him to hide what he is. They walked in companionable silence through the rain-washed streets, neither rushing to their destination. The past months had transformed their urgent alliance into something deeper, more nuanced, a relationship built on mutual respect and shared understanding of darkness. "I've been offered a job," Samira said eventually, as they paused beneath the shelter of a banyan tree. "A design firm in Pune. Good salary, creative control, a fresh start." Aditya's expression remained carefully neutral, though something flickered. In his eyes, that's good. "Pune is farther from memories, farther from you," she said simply. The admission hung between them. Rain dripping from leaves overhead, occasional drops finding their way to their shoulders despite the canopy. "You should go," Aditya said finally.
"Build something new."
"Reminders? Is that what you are to me? A reminder?" Samira turned to face him fully. "You never asked about these." She touched the fading scars on her wrist, visible now that she no longer kept them hidden. "Why? I stayed with him so long. Why I couldn't leave earlier. It wasn't my place to ask. He convinced me I was nothing without him," she said, the words coming easier now after months of therapy, that no one else would ever understand me, except me. My depression, my scars, my failures. He made them proof that I needed him, that I was lucky he bothered with someone so broken. Aditya listened with the same focused attention he gave everything, respectful of her need to speak these truths aloud. "What you showed me," Samira continued, "wasn't just how to fight back. It was that I could be seen, truly seen, scars and fears, and all without being diminished by that visibility." A ghost of a smile touched Odita's lips. "I could say the same." Raindrops caught in Samira's eyelashes as she blinked back unexpected tears. "I'm not leaving Mumbai because of memories, Aditya. I'm leaving because it's a good opportunity. But opportunities don't have to mean endings." His eyes searched hers, cautious hope warring with ingrained pessimism. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Pune is 2 hours away by train. I'm saying I have weekends free, I'm saying." She took a deep breath. "I'm not ready to close this chapter. Our chapter." For a moment, Aditya was perfectly still. The practiced stillness of a man accustomed to evaluating threats, considering angles. Then, with deliberate slowness, he reached out, his scarred fingers gently brushing a raindrop from her cheek. Don't know how to do normal, he admitted quietly. Relationships, weekends, phone calls, I never learned. Right. Neither did I, Samira replied, leaning slightly into his touch. Not really, but maybe that's the point. We build something new, something that's ours, not defined by what came before. Mumbai continued around them, horns honking. Pedestrians hurrying through the rain, life tumbling forward in its chaotic dance. But beneath the banyan tree, time seemed suspended. Possibilities unfolding like the new leaves overhead, tender but resilient. 2 hours by train, Aditya repeated, testing the idea. I could learn to manage that. Samira smiled, a real smile. That reached her eyes once a rarity, now emerging with increasing frequency. We'll start slow, one step at a time. One step at a time, he agreed, offering his hand. She took it without hesitation, their fingers intertwining with newfound familiarity. Together they stepped out from beneath the shelter of the tree, into the gentle rain, no longer hiding, no longer hunted. Just two people walking forward, carrying their pasts, but not defined by them. The light finding its way through the cracks of their carefully constructed armor. Mumbai's sky, so often heavy with monsoon clouds, had begun to clear to the west. Sunlight breaking through in golden shafts. Not a perfect ending, perhaps, but something infinitely more valuable at a beginning. Hard-won and honest, with eyes wide open to both shadow and light,